Hello, Blizzcon. Welcome to the 20th anniversary panel for Diablo 3. Before we get started, we have a few new things today. We have a lot of new stuff tomorrow as well. I do want to take a moment and introduce our panelists. My name is Kevin Martins. I'm the lead designer of Diablo 3. With me, I have Wyatt Chang, senior designer, Mr. John Mueller, our art director, and Julian Love, the lead visual effects artist. Give them a round of applause. So, real quick, we've got three parts here. We're going to talk about the anniversary event, the Darkening of Tristram, where it came from, why it's there, what it does. We're going to have a new feature, the Armory feature, unveiled today. And we're going to do a deep dive on the Necromancer. A lot of information, art, new skills, all sorts of things there. So even if you played the Necromancer, we've got new things to show you today. All right, so 20 years. How many of you played Diablo 1? Well, thank you very much, and welcome to our 20th anniversary. It has been a crazy time for us. All of us on the Diablo 3 team are big fans of Diablo 1 and 2. That's why we're here. I know you guys are too, so thank you for this journey with us so far. Let's take a quick trip down memory lane. Diablo 1 was released in December 31st of 1996, though Mike Morheim tells me that unless you lived in Irvine, where the discs were physically being distributed, you probably didn't play it until January. And it was released in one language, English. And the reason I have an asterisk there is we did a lot more with that later. A lot of fan mods came out to add other languages to it. The game became a lot more popular, I think, than Blizzard expected, which is awesome. This was the same year that the Nintendo 64 came out. And that's the fact that made me feel super old. You know, it doesn't feel like 20 years ago. I remember playing that game and calling in sick to work, and I don't feel that much older, but clearly, from this slide, I am. In tech news, this was the year that in chess, the IBM Deep Blue computer was beaten by Garry Kasparov, right? So humans won, we beat the AI, awesome. But in '97, the computer AI did beat Garry Kasparov, which I'm sure is a fine sign for the future of humanity, and we have nothing to be concerned about whatsoever. This was the year that Diablo came out on Battle.net.
Yeah, Diablo 1 came out in 1996, and back then the internet was still young. And it wasn't common for games to have an integrated matchmaking service for online play. So we wanted to make it really clear that when you bought Diablo, the Battle.net service was going to help you play with other people. This is also, if you remember, those of you who played Diablo 1, you had 7 inventory slots, or 7 equip slots. You didn't have a belt because you didn't have any pants. The inventory was 40 squares big, but most of the items took up 6 different spaces. And of course, gold took up space in your inventory as well. You'd have these piles of 5,000 gold taking up space in your inventory. Skills were different in Diablo 1 as well. You didn't learn skills from a skill tree. You got them from skill books. And then once you had learned the skill, you could then put it on. And for those of you who can remember way back, you had to have enough magic skill in order to learn it. And that number, of course, many will remember, went up to 255.
So fast forward to June of 2000 when Diablo 2 came out. And we had grown a lot. It was released in 9 languages, up from 1, which is quite a significant increase. And 640 by 40 resolution seemed like all anyone would ever need. That was perfectly fine. And I joke about this because this was a huge deal at the time. People wanted 800 by 600, and I think that at that point we were just barely desperate to get this game out, right? A lot of work had been put in. And this was the year that the PS2 came out, which was a huge deal for gaming as well. So a lot of milestones that year. That was also the year that computer AIs did try to kill us all. So thank you, engineers, for saving us from that, the evil overlord there. Good job. And then a year later, in June of 2001, Lord of Destruction came out, which was a huge improvement over Diablo 2. And 800 by 600 resolution saved everything. It was all we would ever need. And this was the year that Battle.net improved dramatically as well.
Yeah, online support continued to improve. We had ladders that were added in Diablo 2, which allowed everyone to play together, as well as improved online services, as well as the mini models where you could actually see previews of other people who are in the same chat channel as you. The equip slots continue to evolve. Still no pants, but we did add a belt, and this belt had special functionality. It held your potions. And many of you will remember that joyous moment on a new character when you got that 4th row of potions, and you were so happy to have that 4th row that you could have. And we also added a special gold counter and a gold in your stash, and the amount of gold you could carry was limited by your character level. And the skill system continued to evolve. Some of you may recognize the skill tree bonus points for those of you, Necromancer, recognize the skill tree from Diablo 2. And that way you could, rather than being randomly assigned from skill books, you could pick the skills that you wanted.
All right, so fast forward again to May of 2012, and we've apologized before for how long that took. Sorry again about that. We released in 12 languages. So as Blizzard had grown, Diablo had grown. As the game industry had grown, Diablo had grown. This story, this 20 years, is kind of a story of all of us. It's not just about Diablo. Things got bigger. This is the year that the Mayan calendar tried to kill us all. Now, not the Mayans. The calendar, I presume, was going to fall on us because it's heavy, but we prevented that as well. Console for Diablo 3, that was something that was very important to us. It took us about 14 months, but in September of 2013, the game came out on Xbox 360 and PS3. So naturally, Microsoft and Sony responded by releasing the next generation of consoles in November of that year. So we answered back by releasing Reaper of Souls and then Ultimate Evil Edition and bringing it up to 5 platforms and adding one more language, Japanese, for a total of 13 languages. So Diablo has gotten way, way bigger.
Online support continued to improve and level up with the addition of clans and communities in Diablo 3 and Reaper of Souls, as well as the friends list you've come to know and love, with support not just within Diablo, but across all Blizzard titles, allowing you to communicate and see the online presence of your friends who are playing World of Warcraft, StarCraft, and other games. Our inventory augmented now to 13 items, including pants.
You know, I have to say, for those of you who adventured for like 16 years without pants, we salute you. Good job.
Yeah, I apologize that we were a little bit behind on that. And then gold also became auto pickup, and you could hold as much as you want. And then the skill system continued to evolve with 6 active skills with 5 skill runes each, dedicated place for your passives that you could choose. The skill system now allowed players to customize their character builds in a multitude of ways.
So happy anniversary, Diablo. And thank you. And what would a 20th anniversary be without an in-game party? Let's take a look at the Darkening of Tristram events. So, in the beginning, this was a totally different thing. So we were just going to add the classic music tracks to the game. So as you were playing adventure mode in Tristram, you'd hear this song. You'd hear some of the other songs as you wander around doing bounties or rifts, and that was going to be cool. We'd have a party here, that video you watched, it was all going to be good. But that was not enough for this team. So instead of just the music tracks, you're getting 16 dungeon levels plus the boss level. All 4 of the bosses recreated, both the models and the AI of those bosses, all presented in glorious pixelated retrovision, and we're giving you lots of anniversary presents. So the Darkening of Tristram, at this point, the things to watch for are, as Frank mentioned, we took out most of the animations, or about 25% of the movement animations. So the character walks around all stilted, and they don't have turn animations. The run animation's gone completely. The camera's changed to make it feel more 2D. The audio is tinny on purpose, so it sounds like the 1990s. Our tech director told me that we're not trying to recreate 1996, because Diablo's engine was actually really advanced for its time, so you really had to capture that late 1997 sound. So that's what we've gone for here. All right, I'm just going to shut up and show you. I do want to say one thing, though. On these big monitors, it turns out that the pixelation doesn't really come across very well, so maybe pay attention more to the animations and the sound, and when you play it next week on PTR, you'll see the retrovision in all its glory. There he is, heading to the Tristram Cathedral. Okay, so combat is Diablo 3, but the movement and everything is straight from the 90s. We've taken all of the levels that most closely match those of the 4 different major looks of Diablo 1. We've recreated the monsters with the ones that look closest to it. In some cases, we did art changes. They have new AIs, so they match the monsters from there. Like we always had the Fallen family, for example, but now we have all the variants, and they have more simplistic AI than they do in D3. And the retro UI is one thing you can't see in that movie. This was another example of something that was out of scope for this, but this mode just kept scope creeping like crazy. It was good. One of our artists, Josh Manning, found out we were going to cut this part of it. He's like, okay, well, I'll do it. So he grabbed a team of people. They did it largely on their own time, just so you guys could get this little feeling from it. When this event happens, you're going to see this pentagram near the old ruins, and when you go there, you're going to find this portal near the fountain. And you enter it, and everything gets crappy. So in the Retrovision Old Tristram, look around. There's a ton of Easter eggs there, and a lot of stuff ties into what you find in the dungeon, and you're going to unlock some mysteries. So the presents we have for you. First up, we have some cosmetic items like portraits that are based on those original health and mana globes from Diablo 1. We've got a banner and a sigil to commemorate this event. You can earn this every year. And we have pets. Of course we have pets. So, bit of a spoiler, the Butcher's in the game. This is Baby Butcher. And instead of a teddy bear, he's got a little piece of meat that he chews on. We presume it's fresh, but nobody wants to get close enough to find out. And he'll follow you around, so you can earn him. I think you can imagine how you get him. And of course, at the end, this cinematic plays. Why might that be important? Because every character class, including the Necromancer, gets a transmog of the Soul Stone in their skull, because this is our first helmet slot legendary gem, which is the soul of Diablo from Diablo 1, and it unleashes a ring of fire that you can't control the demonic energy within you every so often. So our first helmet slot legendary with that transmog for every character class, male and female. Thank you. And for weapon transmogs, of course, we have classic Butcher's Cleaver and Wirt's Wooden Leg. Wait, you might say. Don't we already have Wirt's Leg in the game? We do, because now, when it advances, now you can dual wield Wirt's legs, both his wooden one and his original skeleton one. And I think the guilt meter with what we've done to Wirt at this point is very high, so maybe we're not going to do any more to him in the future. All right, since you already know the Butchers in the game, I did want to show you one of the 4 bosses. And that exactly mirrors my experience when I first found the Butcher in Diablo 1. All right. So here's an example of what we've done to the bosses. So the ones that you already know, like Skeleton King and Butcher, their art has been redone to look more like the 90s versions of them. So that's just one example of the 4 bosses. And of course, Lazarus we had to create because he's not currently in the game. So, of course, when can you play this? It goes on PTR next week, but this is patch 243, and it has more than just the anniversary event, including a bunch of items that we're going to unveil tomorrow at our Day 2 panel, so please come to that. Lastly, the event goes live worldwide in January, and this will be an annual event. So every January, for the month of January, approximately, the Darkening of Tristram event will be live, and you can earn all of these rewards, and all of the ones I didn't tell you about, which I hope you find next week. All right, and of course, this is on PC, PS4, and Xbox One. So now I want to pass it over to Wyatt to talk about the Armory.
Thanks, Kevin. So we have a lot in store for you in 2017. As Kevin mentioned, there's the anniversary event. And in a little bit, you're going to hear more about the Necromancer. But for some of you, I think that the biggest feature coming in 2017 might actually be something we haven't talked yet a lot about, which is the armory. Now, I know some of you are wondering, what's the armory? Let me set the stage. Have you ever been out as a monk in a Dashing Rift set, Dashing Strike monk set, but you actually wanted to put on your Uliana's gear? So you have to swap your items and swap all your skills. By the time you're done, your group doesn't need you anymore. We're going to fix that. You guessed it. We have a full equipment manager coming in a future patch in 2017. You're going to be able to save 5 loadouts per character. All your skills, all your passives, all your items, Kanai Cube powers, everything is saved for you. Let's take a look at what that looks like. So here, we want to save our Dashing Strike set. You can see the armory is located right next to the stash. You can name the set the way that you want so that you can remember what it is later. Once you've saved it, you can inspect it to remind yourself what items were in there, what Kanai Cube powers you had, what passives you had selected. Later on, when you want to retrieve that set, let's say that you just came back from doing some rifts as an Uliana, and now you want to go back to your Dashing Strike set. You switch back to your Dashing Strike set, hit a single button. Here it comes. Boom, just like that. Done. Now you're ready to go off in your Dashing Strike set. There's a lot of details we had to work out to get this to work properly, a lot of questions people have. What happens to my Paragon points? You know, it's interesting, we actually don't save your Paragon points, but it's for a good reason. You're constantly earning Paragon levels. And we didn't want it to be that we saved your Paragon point distribution and then you come back just 20 minutes later, you've gotten 2 extra Paragon points. You have to reallocate those 2 points and save it again. It was actually more inconvenient. We want this to be a convenient feature for you. How about my gems? I've got lots of different gems. We actually remember the engineer who was in charge of the feature, Mr. Kevin Hassett, he wanted to make sure that this feature did exactly what you wanted. So if you put in some Marquise rubies, but then later on when you come back to a set, you've actually upgraded to Flawless Royal, it'll grab those Flawless Royal rubies for you and put those in automatically. Now, some people wondered, well, I have to swap the gems back and forth. How do I pay for it? Because I don't want to have to, we want to be able to swap back and forth, but moving those rubies around every time costs money, right? No, it doesn't, not anymore. Because starting in a future patch with the armory, we're removing the unsocketing costs. We want you to have no reason at all not to swap back and forth between all the sets and toys that you've accumulated. We're doing the same thing for your legendary gems. Let's say that you've got your Bane of the Trapped, and you're going to level it up. Or you use one for an augment, it'll go to whatever your highest ranked gem is of the type that you saved at the time that you wanted to save your set. Everything is handled for you. And of course, the armory is coming to both PC and console. Here's a quick shot of the console implementation. So up next, to talk about the Necromancer, I'd like to introduce Mr. John Mueller, our art director, who, fun fact, did the design for the shirt that I'm wearing right now. This is a Diablo dev team shirt, so if you see anybody on the show floor wearing this shirt, they're going to be a member of the development team. It's got this cool design on the back for the Dark Wanderers. They want to talk to you. All the members of the Diablo team want to talk to you. So if you see somebody wearing this shirt, go up to them, say hi, tell them what you're looking forward to in a future patch. So I'm going to pass it off to John. But before we do that, in case you haven't seen it yet, first we're going to play the Necromancer reveal cinematic.
Death has ravaged our world. And the balance that sustained us has been lost. We feared this day would come when the lands are ruined and the champions of the light can no longer save those in need. But I will. For I wield the power they cannot. And a new army of the dead shall rise at my command. All who threaten the balance, beware.
Gosh, wasn't that amazing? That was created by the Blizzard in-game cinematics team, so a big round of applause for them. That was awesome. Okay, so I'm excited to be here representing the Diablo art team to walk you guys through what it was like reimagining the Necromancer for Diablo 3. And this really gets to what sounds like a simple question, but when we kind of got into it, it gets a little bit complex because we had to answer this question, who is the Necromancer? And that question, on the surface, well, the Necromancer is a priest of Rathma who wields powers of the undead. Well, that sounds kind of boring because what the Necromancer actually is, we found, is 16 years of player experiences. And when we started to talk to the team, we realized we had to go far and wide. And this is where, at Blizzard, we use this process called brainstorming and ideation. And that's where we get all the best ideas from all of our developers to get the best results we can get. Now, this first concept was, now this is all stuff that sort of influenced where we arrived about who the Necromancer was. This was created by Aaron Gaines, and this is sort of this theme of the Necromancer is the king of the dead, right? This was a very common thing that came up as we were developing the class. This next one, this is by Victor Lee. I call this one the Hunter. And this one is like, the Necromancer is this fearsome character who like wears the trophies of the dead on his armor. He's got the demon head in his hand, he's got the scythe, just looks completely badass. And then I call this guy, this is by Michael Frenchie, and I call this guy the Crypt Keeper because he's sort of like, looks like he's literally living with the dead. He's sort of got his hand out, he's smiling, his eyes are torn out, and he's sort of like, welcome to my crypt, just a very happy necromancer to be living with the dead. Okay, so where did we arrive through this sort of ideation process? And this landed us at this very simple statement, which is that the Necromancer is the commander of the dead. That he is a rock star. This was an interesting theme that came up because he's got like an entourage of skeletons, right? Like the coolest entourage any rock star could ever dream of. And we thought that this was a really cool theme that we could access to bring the class forward into Diablo 3. And most importantly, the Necromancer is just cool. He's one of the coolest classes. This is when we talked with everybody, the player stories, wouldn't it be cool if the Necromancer did this? There was just so much that we accessed there. And additionally, we had the fun task of introducing the first female Necromancer into the world of Diablo. Yeah. Okay, so now we know who the Necromancer is. The Necromancer is the commander of the dead. Now production begins. This is sort of, we start to put all the pixels and polygons in their place. And this is the classic set. This is the set that, our goal is to stay true to the Necromancer, to make sure that we're accessing those player stories as well as adding our own flavors to it. And we start to begin to add these flavors, and this is that theme, that Hunter theme reimagined by Ryan Metcalf. And this is, wearing the trophies of his enemies. This is, trying to get all of the themes of the sort of paganism that we liked about that theme of sacrifice. And then, of course, we have this idea that the Necromancer is also a sophisticated character. And this comes through in this sort of aristocratic theme that we came up with. Okay, now we start to have some fun because we start to mix and match some of these themes that we discovered. And this is what I call the Bone Saint. And this is where we take the idea that the Necromancer is all about the dead, but he's also a king. He's also, kind of like a saint of the dead. And of course, now we have these really cool themes that are pure themes. And this is something that we added to the class, which is like, we wanted to do a whole armor set that was just all about blood. And the Necromancer's shoulder pads, which are hearts, literally like pump blood as he runs through the world wreaking havoc. And of course, what Necromancer wouldn't be complete without a full accoutrement of bone armor? That was sort of like, we knew we were going to do that, one of those pure themes that we were going to explore. That's by Victor Lee. So on the left, you can see the Necromancer from Diablo 2, and on the right, you can see our reimagined Necromancer in Diablo 3. And this was the first set that we did. This is that classic armor set. You saw it in the intro cinematic trailer. We really knew that we had to get this part of it right, and then we could begin to add all the cool themes that we had come up with in our journey of reimagining what this class would be like in Diablo 3. And of course, here they are together. The legacy continues. The Necromancers are back in Sanctuary, and we just couldn't be more excited about it. Thanks for this, giving this little tour of what it was like reimagining the Necromancer. Next up, our master of disaster, our lead effects artist, Mr. Julian Love.
Wow, those armor sets are looking really sweet. I really want that blood set. Yeah, like in real life, I want that blood set. And wear that speed dating. It'd be awesome. So, not everybody in the room today has played the Necromancer before. You might be a little unfamiliar. So as we take a look at the Necromancer from a gameplay perspective, I just want to start at the top, make sure we're bringing everybody along for the ride. So what is a Necromancer? Really quick, they're what we would call a pet and ranged magic class, darkly themed, very darkly themed. They're going to be our darkest class ever, for sure. Why are they so dark? Well, they're commanders of the dead, and that means they're going to be leading armies of skeletons, and sometimes dead things, and mostly dead things, and and they're magic. Their magic centers on the manipulation of blood and bone and reanimation. These are dark, gritty themes. And of course, curses. Curses are like a personal wish onto your enemies that influences the outcome of battles. This is like dark, heavy stuff. Okay, so that's necromancy in a nutshell. Now, the thing you might have been asking yourself, looking at that first line, is, pet and ranged magic class, like, isn't that the witch doctor? How are these two things going to be any different? And that's a great question. I'm glad you asked because, well, we built a bunch of slides and I'm obligated to talk about them. Okay, so let's do some comparison, right? Witch Doctor versus Necromancer. Let's see how they're different. Witch Doctor themes. I'm going to start with themes because themes inform all the decisions that we make about developing a class. So really quick, you know this stuff. Witch Doctor, you got your zombies, right? Zombie dogs, zombie bears. And then you got your creepy crawlies, like spiders, snakes, stuff like that. And then you've got jungle culture, right? And you see this in things like big bad voodoo, hexing, even fetishes. They're like a whole jungle culture inside the culture kit of the Witch Doctor. And, here's the thing. Witch Doctors, they're dark, no question. But they're also kind of lighthearted. Like, if you really want someone to take you seriously, maybe you should ditch that plan where you turn into a chicken every 5 seconds and explode into feathers. All right? So now, let's compare that to the Necromancer a little bit. Now, instead of zombies, we've got skeletons, corpses, reanimation. These are darker, grittier takes on the undead vibe. And then the curses, like I said, it's a very personal wishing of bad stuff to happen, right? And then magic that focuses on blood and bone, which is like the raw materials of life. And now I want you to see, now when you look at all that stuff, what it really adds up to is a class that's very serious, grim, visceral, dark, right? There's not a lot of humor going on in the Necromancer. So, if you were thinking about swinging by the necropolis for drinks after work, just know, the Priest of Rothma, happy hour, it's not a thing. They don't do that. All right. So now, what about, do they play any different, right? We should talk about that. How are they going to play different? So I'm going to focus on pets for a second. Witch Doctor pets, entirely passive, right? You pick your pet skill, you put it in your button bar, you hit the button and pets come out, and then that's it. You don't do anything else. There's nothing to do. They just run off, they do their thing. So here's how we're going to make Necromancer pets different, all right? They're all going to be what we call active passives, which might be a new term for you, but you've played skills like this. The monk mantras are a great example in that when you pick the skill, you get a passive benefit, but when you press the button for that skill, you also get a short-term active benefit that lets you interact with that skill in a strategic way. This is how we're going to make all Necromancer pets. Let's look at our first skill, Command Skeletons, to see how this is going to play out. So when you pick Command Skeletons and you put it on your button bar, you're instantly going to get an army of 10 skeletons, some melee and some ranged. But when you activate the skill, it allows you to tell your pets, command them to attack specific targets, and then they get a damage buff for doing it. So here's the thing is, you don't have to wait for your pets to like be distracted on that whatever was going on the lower left corner of the screen. You can lead them around the battlefield and selectively take down targets, the ones that you want. This makes them a very effective single target takedown skill, and they are a significant contributor to your overall damage output. So the difference between Witch Doctor and Necromancer now, Witch Doctor passive, Necromancer active. Okay, what about resource? Let's talk about resource. Witch Doctor, as you know, is mana. The Necromancer, we're going to have a new resource called Essence. So here's how Essence is going to work. It's a large pool of resource. It's going to power a lot of your spenders, but it doesn't regenerate over time like mana does. You'll have to take specific action to get your Essence back. We'll talk about that in a minute. The really big news here, though, is that the Necromancer has 2 resources. The other one is corpses. That's right. Corpses are actually like resource that's out in the battlefield laying on the ground. You generate them by killing monsters, right? And then you get to use that stuff to power some of your skills. Here's how we're bringing this gameplay feature forward into Diablo 3. When a monster dies by any means, whether you kill him or somebody else kills him, in addition to the body that goes flying across the screen or gets melted into a sickly goo of acid or disintegrates, there's going to be a little bit of extra corpse material left behind that only Necromancers can see. And these are the corpses that the Necromancers can use to power their corpse skills. Really simple. Now, what would we be doing in a Diablo 3 game with corpses? Blow them up. That's right. Corpse explosion, we're bringing it forward from Diablo 2. We're going to let you blow corpses to smithereens. It works exactly as you'd expect. You got some corpses on the ground, some monsters nearby. Goodbye, monsters. Here's the thing is, we made it better. We let you blow up to 10 corpses at a time per click. It's totally unfair to monsters. Totally unfair. But here's the thing, look, they know better. They read the terms of service down there, page 33. It said, might get exploded by corpse explosion. They made the choice. All right, so corpse explosion, we're bringing that forward, right? What else? How about bone spear? You need something to make corpses with, right? You got to kill stuff first before you get them. So bone spear works exactly like it did in Diablo 2. Right? It's a 100% piercing projectile skill powered by Essence. It's a significant damage output. It's great for killing monsters, making corpses. Now, once you've bone speared a few times, you're going to run out of Essence, so you have to do stuff about that. Now, Decrepify is a great way for us to keep monsters grouped together. So that's our first curse coming back from Diablo 2. The way that it works is you can curse a very broad area, right? And the monsters that are cursed by Decrepify will be slowed by 80%, have their damage output reduced by 20%. This is great for keeping monsters clumped together. So now, about that essence thing. How are you going to get your essence back when you've spent it all? This is where a new skill called Siphon Blood comes into play. Siphon Blood is a single target channeled spell that lets you quickly recover both life and essence by stealing it from your enemies. Right? So when you run out of essence, pull out Siphon Blood, refill on your essence, go back to your monster murdering mayhem. Then we've got another skill, Blood Rush. You know, you need to be able to move around the battlefield quickly sometimes. You know, pick up some gold, get some loot, G-Rifts and that sort of thing. So Blood Rush is your skill of choice for this. The basic idea here is that when a necromancer wants to move quickly around the battlefield, the skin, it gets in the way, right? If you could just get rid of that skin, you could go so much faster. So they throw off all their skin and organs and other gross bits, channel their blood forward, and then reappear on the other side. Mechanically, it has a lot of the same features that Teleport has. It's very precise, lets you jump across chasms. All right, those skills that I've just covered are all the ones that you can play here in the demo at the show. But we didn't want to just leave you with those 6. We wanted to give you a peek into the future. You wanted that, right? You want more? Yeah, I thought. So let's take a look at, well, you know, we haven't talked about golems, right? What about Blood Golem? We're going to bring golems back. You're going to have multiple golems to pick from. But the first one we're going to show today is Blood Golem. Yeah. Remember when I said the Necromancer's a serious class? Look at that guy. All business. They're going to work a lot like they did in Diablo 2. They're going to be bigs, they're going to be brutes, and of course, because they're pets, they're going to be active passives. You're going to get to tell them to do things. It'll be really cool. One more. One more? I think we got one more. So if you're going to be a commander of the dead, I think it's pretty important that at some point you've got an army to command, right? Otherwise, right? So what if we could just summon all of the skeletons that have ever died in an area to come to help? And when I say that, I'm talking about a skill called Army of the Dead. How many skeletons makes an army? 20? 25? It's like a squad, right? That's not good enough. How about 50? 50 skeletons? That'd be good enough? That's kind of like a platoon. I mean, I don't have my military manual here, but it's not 100. Who said 100? 100? How about 100 plus? Over 100. How are we going to do that? 100 plus skeletons, obeying your command, attacking an area. What is that going to look like? Awesome. Yeah. I got to tell you, I know when we've got a hit on our hands, when we make a skill, we put it in the game, because I can walk around the office and I'll see everybody with God mode on, and they're doing this. Yeah. Look at all of those rib cages flying all over the place. Doesn't it just warm your heart? This is awesome. All right. So that's been a look at the Necromancer from a gameplay standpoint. Encourage you to all head by the demo area and experience the Necromancer in all his necromantastic goodness. Back to Kevin.
Thank you, Julian. All right, so we're almost out of time. The Rise of the Necromancer pack is packed full of stuff. It's not just the Necromancer with everything you'd expect from the class. It's 2 character slots, 2 stash tabs on PC, cosmetic goodies, pets, portrait frames, etc., etc. So it's a lot of stuff, and more information will be coming in 2017 for that. If you haven't played him, Hall C is the Diablo booth. Go play him. If you have played him, go play him again. And when is he coming out, I'm sure, is the main question you have. I'm going to say next year. Is that a good enough answer? All right. Second half-ish. Yeah, you're welcome. So this is an early look for the Necromancer. We thought you guys would prefer to see it early and have to wait a little while for the fully featured class to be out, rather than just wait until next year and get it all at once. So I did hope you enjoy your sneak peek. So real quick, the Darkening of Tristram comes out in 243 on PTR next week. Please come help us test that. It goes live on all of our platforms in January. And then later is the Armory and Rise of the Necromancer pack. Tomorrow at the Dev Talk Q&A, we do have a bunch of other things. We have a brand new game mode called Challenge Rifts. We're going to explain more about the new zones, a whole bunch of features around greater rifts and inventory management. Seasons are coming to consoles, so Xbox One and PS4 guys. More info on that tomorrow. And we have lightning talks again tomorrow on the community stage upstairs at the Dark Moon Fair on the third floor. So if you're interested in deep dives on any of these subjects, some of them are happening tomorrow. So before we wrap it up, I do want to say one last thing. On behalf of this team, it is absolutely our privilege to be up here and represent this team. They so love you guys. They put their hearts and souls into this every day. They go above and beyond. They care what you think. They want you to have fun. They love this game as much as we do. Thank you. And it's been 20 years. One last time, how about 20 more years? Thank you very much. See you out on the show floor.
Your